So deserved and earned. This guy's a great player. He's also a great human being, which I always believe matters.
Agents typically don't like to do deals for players of comparable skills that are less.
There will be an amount that is guaranteed at signing, and that's one of the only factors that matter.
The NFL just watched a contract drop that might trigger the biggest salary chain reaction we've ever seen. One star got paid, but now other receivers are waiting, agents are preparing, and the next deal could cross a number fans once thought impossible. The scary part is, this reaction already started, and we're about to show exactly where it leads. Then the news finally hit, and once it landed, it didn't take long for everyone to realize this wasn't normal. This wasn't just another talented player getting rewarded, this was a statement. A financial shockwave that instantly reset the rules of the league. The Seattle Seahawks locked in their star receiver with a contract that forced every general manager to look at their own roster and ask one uncomfortable question. Are we ready for what comes next? The numbers didn't just look big, they looked historic. 4 years, roughly $168.6 million total value, over $120 million guaranteed, around $42.15 million per year. And just like that, the wide receiver market wasn't climbing anymore, it jumped.
Breaking news just moments ago, Adam Schefter tweeting that the Offensive Player of the Year and Super Bowl champion Jackson Smith-Njigba has got himself a brand new deal with the Seahawks. 4 years, almost $169 million. It averages over 42 a year, includes over $120 million guaranteed. Both of those set records for any wide receiver. He's now the highest paid wideout in NFL history.
And once those numbers became official, the conversation changed instantly. Because becoming the highest paid wide receiver in NFL history isn't just about performance anymore. It becomes about pressure, expectations, and the ripple effects nobody talks about at first. Teams now know the price of greatness has been rewritten. Agents now know the ceiling just got higher. And players sitting in locker rooms across the league suddenly started thinking about their own value. But here's where things take a sharp turn, because the real story didn't start when the contract was signed. The real story started when people began asking why he deserved it in the first place. If you look at the numbers alone, it becomes clear why this deal didn't come out of nowhere. This wasn't a random gamble. This was built on production, the kind of production that forces teams to act fast before the price climbs even higher. Last season, he didn't just perform well, he dominated. He finished as the Offensive Player of the Year, led the league in receiving yards, and helped push his team all the way to a Super Bowl victory. That kind of season changes careers, it changes reputations, and sometimes it changes entire markets.
Seattle, this is the problem, the good problem you have when you draft good players, especially these first rounders. Like, they're going to reset the market when it's their time. But what he did for Seattle last year was unbelievable. Obviously, he led the league in yards, Offensive Player of the Year, and Seattle was near the bottom when it came to actually throwing the ball. So when they was throwing the ball, it was 2-11, and he was making big plays.
That last detail matters more than people realize. Seattle wasn't even a pass-heavy team. They weren't flooding the field with throws every drive. Yet somehow, despite fewer chances than most elite receivers, he still found ways to dominate defenses week after week. That's the kind of efficiency coaches dream about and defensive coordinators hate dealing with. When a receiver produces massive numbers without constant opportunities, it sends a loud message. This player doesn't just rely on volume, he creates value every time he touches the field. And when you dig deeper into the season itself, the numbers become even harder to ignore. Nearly 1,800 receiving yards, achieved in an offense that didn't rely heavily on passing volume, isn't normal production, it's rare territory. That level of output forces teams into tough decisions, because letting that kind of player walk away could destroy years of roster building. That's exactly why Seattle moved quickly. Not because they wanted to break records, but because they were afraid of what would happen if they didn't.
So deserved and earned. This guy's a great player. He's also a great human being, which I always believe matters. Just to put into context how great his season was, I believe he had 1,792 yards receiving this year that led the NFL.
Yep.
Seattle threw the ball the least amount in the NFL.
Yeah.
He was, when it comes to as how many routes he actually ran, he was bottom 5 in the NFL. So he got little opportunity, but massive production. He's a superstar.
And that's the moment where everything starts to feel logical. On paper, it makes sense. A Super Bowl champion, a league leader in yards, a player producing elite numbers without needing endless targets. When you stack those facts together, paying him top dollar doesn't sound reckless, it sounds responsible. It sounds like smart business. It sounds like protecting your future before someone else steals it. But here's the uncomfortable part. Nobody likes to admit logic doesn't always mean safety. Sometimes, the moves that make perfect sense on paper end up creating problems nobody predicted. Because once one contract resets the market, every other player starts watching, every agent starts calculating, every front office starts worrying about what comes next. And that's the twist hiding beneath this celebration. On paper, this makes perfect sense. But in reality, this might be the moment everything started breaking. The moment the headlines faded and the celebration noise slowed down, a harder question started floating around inside locker rooms. Not on TV, not on social media. Inside real team meetings, where players sit shoulder to shoulder and quietly measure their own value, because when one receiver suddenly becomes the highest paid player at his position, the reaction isn't always excitement. Sometimes it's tension, sometimes it's silent frustration, and sometimes it's the start of a dangerous imbalance that teams pretend doesn't exist until it becomes too big to hide. Because football has never been a one-man game. You need offensive lines, protecting quarterbacks, defenders risking their bodies every snap, and role players doing work that never shows up in headlines. But when one contract jumps this high, it changes how everyone else sees the system. A defensive star starts wondering if his sacrifices will ever be valued the same way. A veteran receiver starts calculating how far behind he just fell overnight. Even young players on rookie deals start thinking about what their future is worth. That's when chemistry starts shifting, not loudly, but quietly. And quietly is usually how problems grow. And the truth is, the danger isn't just the money itself, it's the structure behind it. Most fans only see the headline numbers, but executives study what's buried inside the deal, because that's where the long-term risk hides.
They've done it. Now, my prediction was it was going to be a 3-year extension worth $41 million per year, 3 years, $123. When you add it to the $25.4 million he was due to make over the next 2 years, it would have been a 5-year deal with a total value of $148.4 million. That's not what they did. It's a 4-year extension with a value reportedly of $168.6 million. That's a $42.15 million new money average. That pushes the bar that Jamar Chase had set at $40 million to $42.15 million. It creates a 6-year commitment. And when you add the $25.4 million to the $168.6, it results in a payout per year of $32.3 million for 6 years.
That 6-year commitment is where the pressure really starts building. Because long deals don't just reward talent, they lock teams into financial promises that can haunt them later. If performance drops, if injuries happen, or if new stars demand similar deals, the cap starts tightening like a noose. And when that happens, tough decisions follow. A trusted veteran might get released. A young defensive piece might be traded. A locker room leader might disappear overnight, not because of performance, but because of numbers on a spreadsheet. That's when people start asking the uncomfortable question nobody wants to say out loud: is he overpaid, or is the system starting to lose balance? Because when one player earns that much, it forces the team to reshape everything around him. Salaries shift, priorities change, depth disappears. And once depth disappears, injuries become more dangerous, seasons become more fragile, and championship windows close faster than expected. That's why many insiders didn't celebrate quietly, they watched carefully. Because this is the exact moment where things start getting dangerous. What makes this situation even more explosive is what happens next. Not months from now, not years from now. The ripple effect has already started moving across the league, and several names are sitting right behind this deal, waiting their turn. Agents are studying this contract line by line. Teams are reviewing budgets again. And star receivers across the league are watching closely, because they know their time is coming, and when it does, they won't settle for less. The next wave isn't small. It includes names that already dominate highlight reels and carry entire offenses on their backs. And once one of them signs a new deal, the number won't stay at 42 million. It will climb again. Because contracts in the NFL don't shrink, they stack. Each new deal pushes the next one higher, whether teams like it or not.
Puka Nacua is still out there right now. You see the money right there, $42.15 million. Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, DK Metcalf, Garrett Wilson also on the list. Puka Nacua soon will be joining that list. A bunch of running backs are going to get paid this offseason. Every year, there are certain positions that get taken care of. Last year, it was the pass rusher. It was the offseason of the pass rusher. This year, I would expect that there'll be at least a couple of these receivers, Jackson, Smith-Njigba.
That one truth explains everything. Agents don't negotiate backward, they push forward. And when players of similar talent line up for contracts, each one demands more than the last. That's why analysts already believe the next massive receiver deal could break another barrier, not just $45 million per year, but possibly crossing into territory the NFL has never seen before. A contract touching $200 million for a wide receiver doesn't sound crazy anymore. It sounds inevitable. And when those numbers start stacking up, something else happens inside locker rooms. Jealousy begins to spread in ways fans rarely notice. It's not always loud arguments or public drama. Sometimes it's just a shift in attitude, a quiet frustration, a growing sense that the system favors one position more than others.
What do you think George Pickens thinks about JSN pushing the bar to 42 million, 42.15 million? It's 15 million now above what George Pickens is due to make. And I know that that's going to prompt the reaction, oh, how will he ever buy food at only 27 million? Don't miss the point here. Most players who play great have one shot at a second contract, at a big contract. George Pickens' opportunity has been delayed artificially by the franchise tag. The franchise tag is horrible for players. It's great for owners. It delays 1 year, 2 years, really 3 years if they want to push it that far, the opportunity of the player to get what he's already earned. And the problem is with each passing year, the player carries the risk of injury. The player could possibly exit his prime.
That frustration doesn't stay hidden forever. Eventually, it turns into demands. Players start holding out, agents push harder, teams face pressure from every direction at once, and once that cycle begins, it becomes almost impossible to slow down. Because now, every new contract isn't just about reward, it's about catching up. Catching up to the market, catching up to the latest headline, catching up to the new standard that keeps climbing higher every season. And that's the real danger hiding inside this moment. Not the current deal, but the chain reaction it just triggered. Because once the next receiver signs and that next number jumps even higher, the league won't feel the same anymore. Budgets will stretch thinner, teams will gamble harder, and mistakes will become more expensive than ever before. Orjab next contract sign, Hoga NFL, Bilkul Waisa, Nahi Rahega. Once the numbers settled in and the contract became official, the reaction didn't stay inside front offices anymore. It spilled out to fans, analysts, insiders, and even former players who had seen markets rise before, but never this fast. Social media feeds filled with arguments almost instantly. Some fans called it deserved, pointing at championships and production. Others saw something more troubling, a signal that the league might be stepping into risky territory where contracts grow faster than stability. On forums like Reddit, NFL threads, and posts on X, the conversation didn't stay calm for long. One group kept repeating the same message: elite talent deserves elite pay. They pointed at his numbers, his awards, and the fact that winning teams usually keep their best players. But another group saw warning signs. They talked about salary caps tightening, depth disappearing, and teams becoming top-heavy with just a few expensive stars. That kind of imbalance doesn't show damage immediately. It builds slowly until one injury or one bad season turns a contender into a struggling roster. The pressure wasn't only coming from fans either. Front offices themselves started feeling squeezed, because once one deal resets the market, every upcoming negotiation becomes harder than the last. Owners expect success, agents expect growth, players expect fairness. And somewhere in the middle of all that pressure, teams are forced to make decisions that rarely make everyone happy.
Agents typically don't like to do deals for players of comparable skills that are less than the deals that got done, but I don't know where the Rams would be willing to go on Puka Nacua. So that's a battle that Puka and the Rams will be engaged in here these coming weeks.
Situations are situational. You know, Schneider has now found himself in the general manager sphere of being like, yep, that guy knows what he's doing.
That single idea explains why the reaction from insiders sounded tense instead of confident. Because every new deal doesn't just reward one player, it builds pressure on the next negotiation waiting in line. Teams now know that the next receiver contract won't be cheaper. It will be more aggressive, more demanding, more dangerous to approve. And when front offices start hesitating before signing deals, it usually means they see risks the public hasn't fully noticed yet. And that's where the situation starts moving beyond fan reactions and enters something much bigger, the financial reality that could reshape the entire league structure. The most dangerous part of this situation isn't visible today. It doesn't show up on highlight reels or championship banners. It hides inside spreadsheets, cap tables, and long-term projections that teams quietly review every offseason. Because every massive contract doesn't just affect the current year, it stretches into the future, sometimes 5 or 6 seasons ahead, and that future can become tight very quickly. Here's the uncomfortable truth many insiders have started discussing privately. Teams might soon reach a point where they can't afford both a superstar quarterback and a superstar wide receiver at record prices. The math simply stops working after a certain level. If one player takes 40 or 50 million per year and another demands similar money, the rest of the roster starts shrinking. Depth disappears. Backups weaken, special teams suffer, And once injuries hit, which always happens in football, the cracks become impossible to hide. That's why contract structure matters just as much as total value. Teams don't only worry about how much they pay, they worry about how long they stay locked into that payment.
There will be an amount that is guaranteed at signing, and that's one of the only factors that matters. You see big numbers. The agents want to get it out there. They want to recruit new clients. I get that. All that matters is signing bonus, full guarantee at signing, and cash flow for the first 3 years. By the time we get to year 4, 5, and 6, it's rarely, if ever, guaranteed. And it's the year-to-year option that the team has, because if the player isn't living up to the deal's getting renegotiated or torn up. If the player is outperforming the deal, sorry player, we'll give you more if we see fit.
That explanation reveals something many fans don't realize. Contracts can look safe at first, but become dangerous later. Teams push money into future seasons to survive the present, but eventually those future payments arrive. And when they do, franchises are forced into painful choices. They might release productive players, trade veterans who still perform well, or completely rebuild rosters that once looked unstoppable. Some insiders even warn that a few teams could collapse financially in terms of competitiveness, not bankrupt, but unable to maintain winning rosters because too much money is locked into too few players. That kind of collapse doesn't happen overnight. It happens slowly, season by season, until fans start wondering how a championship roster suddenly became average. And when multiple teams face that pressure at the same time, the league itself begins to shift. Strategies change, draft priorities change, and the balance between offense and defense starts tilting in unpredictable ways. At first glance, this looked like a celebration, a star rewarded, a franchise securing its future, and a league continuing its usual business. But now, after stepping back and looking at the chain reaction, it feels less like a celebration and more like a turning point, because this wasn't just another contract added to the books. This was a line crossed financially, structurally, and psychologically across the entire NFL. The next 12 months may decide more than just playoff races. They may decide how teams build rosters, how players negotiate deals, and how far salary numbers can stretch before something snaps. If another receiver signs an even bigger deal, and history suggests that will happen, the ripple effects will only grow stronger. Budgets will tighten further, expectations will rise higher, and mistakes will become more expensive than ever before. So now the real question isn't whether this deal was deserved. The real question is what happens next? Because if one wide receiver is already earning more than $42 million per year, how dangerous will the next contract become? If you've been watching this situation closely, share your prediction. Who do you think will be the next receiver to break the market? And if this moment really does change the future of the league, you'll want to stay ahead of it. Subscribe, like the video, and drop your thoughts below because the next headline might arrive sooner than anyone expects.